Hi, thanks for joining for today's 30-minute lower body focus yin class. Today's practice will be perfect for those runners out there, also great if you've just had leg day. I'd also use this as a half-an-hour wind down before bed if you need it. Now each posture we're going to take today is going to lead us towards pigeon pose. So let's get nice and cozy and get going. Thanks for joining. For today's half-an-hour lower body focus yin class, you might want a few bits and bobs to accompany you. So what I always use for my practice are a couple of pillows from my bed. So just grab yourself maybe a few cushions, something that you can be nice and comfortable with if you need that cushioning. I've got a couple of yoga bricks over here. Now, if you don't have yoga bricks per se, totally just use books or maybe some Tupperware boxes, stuff that you can improvise with around the house. And I'm also using a strap potentially at times here. If you don't have a yoga strap, then you can use a belt or a simple dressing gown cord. Again, we improvise when we're at home, right? So today's focus, lower body, we're going to eventually make our way into pigeon pose. For those of you that know it, if you don't know it, we will get there and you will get to know it. It's going to be half an hour. The time will go quickly, especially if you allow yourself in this yin practice to let go, to relax, and hopefully it'll breeze by and we'll be ready for either some bed or maybe feel a surge of energy at the end if you need to go off and do something productive afterwards. It is a pretty magical practice for things like that. So I'd like us to come into a comfortable seat to begin with. Now, I often find that when I come into a cross-legged position or a low seat, that my knees rise, or my lower body or my back kind of curves and I slump down. If you are like me, and this often happens, then I'm going to say grab one of your cushions, grab one of your pillows and sit that underneath your sit bones. So it lifts the sit bones up slightly so that the femur bones, the knees and the thighs are a little bit lower in line with the hips rather than above them. So once you're there and you know you can hold this position for a few minutes, place your hands onto your thighs or your knees, close your eyes and drop your chin to your chest. Take a deep breath in through your nose and a big sigh out through the mouth. And if you're still getting yourself ready, take your time. There's also music in the drop-down description that you may want to put on if you haven't already. Make sure that your space is really calming. Maybe a slightly darker space for you, somewhere quiet. And we'll be sat here for a few minutes to get yourself ready. Tap into your breath. Notice where you may be holding a bit of tension today in the shoulders, the upper back, the hips, maybe around the neck. Take a big inhale through the nose and a big sigh out through the mouth. And again, inhale. Big exhale. When you breathe, think about taking a 360-degree breath. So when you think about your ribs filling up with breath, think about it going from the front, side, and the back of the ribs, not just the front, not just around the chest, but really open up in the side of the body and into the back of the body. And as you exhale, we don't want to slump, but drop the shoulders down. Release any tension that you're feeling in your jaw, your mouth, your tongue, maybe in the eyelids or the forehead. Give yourself this time. Even if you haven't got a huge amount of time, give yourself a moment to settle down, to be present with your breath. And now we're going to come down onto our backs. Move the pillows or the cushions, leave everything over to the side prop-wise, and lie down on your backs. Now, once you're down on your backs, I want you to bring the arms up over the head. So take them up as high as you can, maybe on a slight diagonal angle, more like a big star. Hold this here and feel the shape of the ribs melt down into the ground, the back of the ribs. Keep the arms where they are and bend your knees. Plant your feet to the floor. And as you're here, I want you to notice now the natural curves of your spine. So you'll have a little gap underneath your neck, and you'll have a little gap underneath your lumbar spine, underneath the lower back. And these are our natural curves. They're called the S curve of the spine. There are 3 real big points of connection through the back of the head, through the thoracic spine, so around the ribs and the shoulders, and then to the sacrum, the real base of the spine or the top of the pelvis. So you want those 3 points of connection to the ground right now, and you can start to rock your legs from side to side here. Keep the arms up over the head. Let the armpits really shine bright to the sky. Feel the weight of the head, the back of the hands, and the soles of your feet cement into the ground. Now from here, cross your left foot and ankle on top of your right thigh. Cross your left foot and ankle on top of the right thigh. Keep the right foot on the floor and then continue to rock slightly from side to side here. Think about pressing the tops of your bum, the base of your spine into the floor so that we don't flatten the lumbar spine or curve the spine. Keep the left foot really flexed. Push out through the ball of the foot, especially the big toe mound, and spread the toes. Now this gentle rock that you've got going on right now, we're going to get that to be a little bit bigger. So really rock the legs over to the left, keep the foot on top of the ankle, and then back up and over to the right. This time as you send the legs over to the right, so do one more over to the left. When you send your legs over to the right, you're going to let your right thigh flop down towards the floor. Keep it going and shine the sole of the right foot, you can see now, out to the side of the room. You've got your left foot and your ankle still on top of your right thigh. And I want you to imagine that someone's pulling the hands up over the head still, grabbing hold of them as your legs, as your shins, and as your knees direct away from the upper body. Keep the left foot on top of the right thigh. You're not pushing into the knee. There's just that gentle bit of attention onto the real juicy part of the thigh. And then I want you to focus mainly on this left hip rotator. So right on the side of the bum, basically, as you begin to push that left foot and ankle onto the right thigh slightly firmer, can you start to notice that slight rotation that you feel more in this left hip socket as the knee pushes away from you? Now you're not forcing the knee down. You're working into external rotation of your left hip. And ultimately it's the same position that it will be in when we come into Pigeon towards the end of this side. We'll spend a good 12-ish minutes on each leg before we close this whole practice up. Breathe down into your belly. Keep the feet flexed, spread the toes. It really makes quite a big difference when we have attention to the very ends of our body. Take one more breath where you are here. And as you exhale, squeeze your legs back into that center point that you were in right at the beginning. Release your left leg, hug both of your knees in towards the chest really slowly. Bring your hands around your shins and either roll to one side or rock yourself fully up to a seat. Now from here, you're going to take your hand straight behind you and we're going to still focus on this left leg. The fingertips are going to turn to face the back of the room and you're going to cross your left foot and ankle on top of your right thigh again. Lower the sit bones down. Shine the shoulders back and the chest bone forward. Flex both of your feet. Really press that right foot into the floor and spread out the left toes. And start to rock slightly from side to side. So you're massaging your piriformis muscle, which is really sort of the mid to top section of your glutes. Very close to the glute medius. This can be a place that you come back to if the next pose isn't for you. And it's not for everybody, the next pose. Just set yourself up here. Catch yourself if you ever find that you're rounding the shoulders forward and collapsing in the lungs there. You want to keep everything nice and open. Spread your fingers wide and rock. Keep the eyes closed whenever you can. Honestly, let yourself go in this practice. Slow everything down. There is no real end point. There's no full destination to where you need to be. Very much on a journey towards releasing connective tissue, the fascia of the body. So now if you know that this is the point that you need to stay in for a little bit longer, then you stay. Otherwise, we're going to work into what we call double pigeon. Now with double pigeon or square pose, your left foot stays where it is. You're going to heel toe the right foot across to the left edge of the mat. Walk your hands further up towards your bum. And what you're aiming for is to stack the shins. Now you're not crossing the legs, you're stacking the shins. I'm going to flip myself around on a slight diagonal so you can see this better. So you're stacking the shins. Left foot is on top of the right thigh. Left knee is stacking on top of the right foot. Lots of lefts and rights. Now for most of us, there is going to be a gap here, which we can fill that gap with your yoga brick, with your cushion, whatever you prefer. Really prop yourself up for as much as you need right now. Other people are completely flat down, and if that's you, excellent. Just stay there where you are. There's no right, there's no wrong, there's no better, there's no worse. So I want you to remember that. Wherever you are, keep the feet flexed, stack the shins, and bring your fingertips to next to your hips, or just slightly behind them. So as you press your fingertips into the floor, roll the shoulders back, shine the chest bone forward. Press down through the fingertips and grow up through the crown of your head. And you're going to be nice and patient here, even though this can be quite a confronting pose. It's not the most comfortable place to be. I get it. And once we really set ourselves up in this posture, Can you find those moments of softness? Maybe it's in the face. Maybe it's a little wiggle of the toes. Perhaps it's in the breath. Keep the breath consistent. Nice long exhales. You can keep your hands on the floor, or you can bring your hands onto the knee and the foot, as long as you don't suddenly collapse the shoulders and the back. Hands can come on the knee and the foot. Pull the crown of the head up towards the sky and stay exactly where you are. Now, those of you that may feel like they can go forward in this position, I'm not a big hinger. This is pretty much my range of motion right now. But if you want to, and if you feel that you can, and you can always use props as well out in front of you, hinge the torso slightly forward, come up onto your fingertips, either on a brick or if you can have them on the floor, take them down onto the floor. Some people can go flat down, forehead, boom, to the floor. And if that's you, go there. See how you feel today. But very often, a lot of these postures require you to do a little bit less so that you can really feel where the focus of this posture is. So it's around those external hip rotators right here. Now you decide where you need to be for the final minute in this position. And even within the stillness of the postures, there is still so much movement that is happening within on a much deeper level than we can see. And if you're really quite low down in this pose, start to walk the hands back up. Your exits from your yin postures are really important. So we don't want to shock anything. We let that connective tissue have its moment to breathe. And once you have all reached that top point, you can remove the props. Now this is the point that you can curve the spine a little bit here. Bring your hands onto the foot and the knee. Lean back, and there you may want to round the spine to lift the top leg off. And from there, we're going to stay with this left leg for the final few minutes into our pigeon pose. So you're going to take your left shin forward and swing the right leg back behind you. Right leg out long, point the right foot. Left leg is out in front of you. Now don't worry if you haven't got your shin parallel to the top edge of the mat. If the heel is towards the groin and that's as far as you can take it, then it's still pigeon, no worries. At this point, you can bring your pillows, you can bring your bricks and place them slightly underneath the butt cheek on the left leg or the thigh, just so that you avoid rocking over and collapsing over to that left leg. If you don't need the props, don't worry about them. I want you to take your hands out about as wide as the mat, up onto your fingertips, and think about the front of your hips. So it's almost like you have two little headlights at the front of your hips, and you want to keep the headlights forward. So often the right headlight will pull back a little bit more, and the left headlight will pull forward. Now we're trying to do the opposite here. We're trying to pull the right hip forward and the left hip back, which requires you to press down through the shins and the feet. Maybe even lift the hips very slightly away from the ground, or the groin away from the ground, and gently direct the right hip forward and the left hip back. And it will be quite intense in that left butt cheek. You may feel at this point you need to stay upright. If, however, you really want to lower down to your forearms, you can walk the hands a little bit further forward, Bend your elbows, bring the forearms down. You may even want to bring the forehead down. Those of you with bricks and props, you can even place the forehead on top of the brick. If you really want to just let go of any tension that you're feeling in the front of the head, it can be a lovely place to be right now. Now, if pigeon is just, again, not something that is suitable for your knees, then you can come back into that first position that we were in before, where you sit on your bum and you cross the left foot and ankle on top of the right thigh and you rock. So we're going to be in this pigeon for another 2 minutes. Try and separate the back of your teeth and relax your tongue so that you're not adding any tension to the neck or the shoulders or the upper back. If you're working with props underneath the head, remove the prop. Press down through the hands and try and lift the elbows and the forearms off the floor. I want everyone to eventually walk their hands back to the left shin. Have a moment where you press the hands into the floor and lift the chest forward. Feel into the hips again, right hip forward, left hip slightly back. For the final few breaths, you can stay there or walk your hands over to the right corner of your mat. Place one hand on top of the other and really press into the ground. And I want you to feel like someone is pulling this left hip in the opposite diagonal line. So what we now find is a bit more space in the waist, down your spine. Take one more big breath in where you are. Exhale, walk your hands back into center if you went for that diagonal reach. And then those of you that have a prop underneath the left thigh, ditch it. And then you're going to, everybody, roll onto your left thigh, butt cheek. And swing the legs forward. Take your time with it. And we're going to take 1 minute in a rebound. Legs out in front of you. Lie your body down. Do nothing. Lie there. Just let the aftermath of the posture occur, take place. Let the blood rush back down to the toes. Start to move your fingers and your toes. First of all, I want you to reach the arms up over the head and then bend the knees, plant your feet to the floor. And we're going to take everything to the other side. So once you're there, remember the curve in your back, the natural S curve. So you want to have the connection through the back of the head, the thoracic spine, and the hips. Little rock from side to side. And then cross your right foot and ankle on top of the left thigh and continue to rock it. Flex the feet, spread the toes. Let that rock get a little bit bigger and you're setting up the foundations of your pigeon here already. And then eventually When you rock your legs over to the left, you let your left thigh sort of drop to the floor. Flex both of your feet. Keep the right foot and ankle on top of your left thigh. You're not pushing anything. You're not forcing anything down. You're letting it drop. Keep the right shoulder on the ground though. Close the eyes. Just imagine that you're trying to lengthen the front of your body a little bit more through the right thigh by directing it very slightly away from the upper body. And slowly send your legs back up to center. Bring both of your knees softly into the chest. Hands around your shins, and you can rock over to one side or rock straight up to your seat. And we'll go straight into the next pose. Place your hands behind you, fingertips face the back of the room, and then cross your right foot and ankle on top of the left thigh. So the fingertips face back, flex the right foot and gently rock from side to side. So you can let that rock get bigger, smaller, completely up to you. Chest forward towards the shin, shoulders squeeze back. And the left foot can be as close up to the sit bones as you want. It won't make a huge difference. It really just depends on what you can take. Now you can always stay here or come back into this position if you want to. Otherwise, heel toe the left foot over towards the right side of the mat for our double pigeon / square. So in this position, remember, we want to stack the shins. So rather than having our feet like a cross-legged position, you want to keep that left foot, the underneath foot, slightly further forward. Flex both of the feet. And use your props where and if you need them. Underneath the knee, maybe to the side if you don't want it. But we're all going to start off with the fingertips on the floor next to your hips. So you can have a nice head-on view here. Fingertips down, lift up through the crown of the head. And now you can stay there. Those of you that are really stacking your legs flat like flat pancakes, you can of course take your journey forward whenever you're ready with your bricks or hands straight to the floor. Otherwise, if you want to change it up a little bit, you can bring the hands onto the foot and the knee. And then exhale, let it out. Knowing that we're not here forever. That this may just be a tricky few minutes. I mean, uncomfortable few minutes, but I don't want to dictate what you should feel. We are most likely experiencing quite similar things. But if there is a voice in your head during your practice which is telling you you can't do something or you don't look that way or whatever else, that's the chitta chatta, the chitta vritti that we are trying to get rid of. The monkey mind that is just going at a completely different pace to the rest of us. You are not your mind. You are not those thoughts. Stay present to truly how you feel, and if your body is telling you that you need to move from a pose, then that's what you do. And ultimately, with our practice, we are learning those things. We're learning when our body is telling us something to when our mind is maybe telling us something else. It's not always clear as day. But through this practice, I really believe that that gets better. That each time we come onto the mat, it's an opportunity to get to know ourselves just a little bit more. Try and keep those long exhales consistent, even at points where you feel that the pose is getting even more fiery. Take one more inhale where you are, and one more exhale where you are. And those of you that are really quite low down, start to walk your hands back up towards the shins. And this is the point that we can all place the hands onto the knee and the foot, move the props, and then lean back and release. Still working on that right leg, we're going to take it into pigeon. So right shin forward, left leg long down the mat, ease into it. Maybe the knees and the joints are feeling maybe a little bit stiff or stuck in certain places when we are somewhere for a little bit longer. Now really set yourself up. Remember, in your pigeon, doesn't matter if the foot isn't parallel with the knee. If you need your props under your right thigh, take the props, or maybe get it ready for the head. Fingertips out wide, point the back foot, and really try and get the little toe of the back foot to press into the floor. And maybe that way that will also encourage the left hip slightly forward. Chest forward and open. Pull the right hip back. And then only when you truly feel like maybe you're getting that feeling in the right hip rotator or around the external rotator, then you can come down and forward. Hands walk forward, lower the forearms, lower the forehead, use your brick if you want to. And we'll be here for 2 minutes. So you're welcome to stay exactly as you are for the final minute, or if you wanted to walk the hands back up towards the shin and then walk the hands on a diagonal angle over to the left, then you're welcome to add that in for the final minute. Placing one hand on top of the other and really pushing away, pulling the right hip back as you tilt over to the left. Take a final big breath in where you are. Exhale, walk your hands back into center. Move the brick from underneath your right thigh and then roll onto your right thigh and butt cheek. Slowly swing the legs around and we're going to come into our Shavasana now. If you have your pillows with you, place the pillows underneath the knees and we'll take a slightly risen, elevated leg in our Shavasana. Lie yourself down. If there's another position that you'd prefer to lie in, then please take that now. Rest the hands on your belly, your heart, maybe arms down by your sides. And as soon as you're there, take a big inhale through the nose and a big sigh out through the mouth. How do the legs feel? What's the sensation that you're experiencing right now? Drop the weight of the legs. And rest your awareness in the flow of your breath. Rest your awareness in the whole of your body just as it is. Start to move your fingers and your toes. Inhale, reach the arms up over the head and try and stretch out through your feet. Exhale, hug your knees into your chest and wrap your arms around your shins. To come out of this pose, you can either roll over to one side or rock straight up, completely your choice. But eventually, you bring yourself into a comfortable seat just to finish off pretty much where we were right at the beginning. Rest the hands on the knees or the thighs. Close your eyes. Feel the sit bones into the ground and pull up through the crown of the head. How do the legs feel? How is the breath? And you can leave the hands on your thighs or you can bring the hands together in Anjali Mudra. And we'll take a final breath in and a final breath out. Namaste. Thank you for joining for this 30-ish minutes of yin. Hope your legs and your hips are feeling nice, open, stretched, experienced. Let me know how you get on with it. If you could like and subscribe, I'll be so, so grateful. Thank you for joining me today. All the best. Namaste.